Welcome back to Season 2 of Conversations with Colie podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Miller, the author of the book series A through Z Guide to Raising a Good Human, a book series that I wrote to start the communication process between parents and children, starting from birth and why conversation is important. This year, I want to invite you to join me and my guests as we talk about all the subjects and topics that we hear about in everyday life, like human trafficking, grief, relationships, near-death experiences, and all the insights that we can learn from these subjects and topics, and how to look at things from both sides of the spectrum without using bias. Join me and my guests this season as we heat up the summer and the airwaves with our hot topics, and we start opening the doors and shaking out the rugs that we have been carrying with us through generations.
Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Colie. Today I am speaking with HomoSanity. HomoSanity is a self-made spiritual guru, writer, and educator who is making a shift into podcasting and coaching. He has struggled 20 years of his life to balance the complexities of his sexuality with spirituality in a divisive, hostile, religious environment and has come to peace within himself. He is deeply connected to nature and values love and freedom for all beings. In addition to a long-time running blog site and books he has written on Amazon, HomoSanity most recently began the HomoSanity podcast running on Spotify, Podbean, and Swell, with RSS feeds coming soon to other platforms. The show features candid talk to both the gay and straight community and guests who share their love for music in a separate segment called Transformation by Music. Welcome, HomoSanity.
It is great to be with you today, Nicole.
It is wonderful to have you. Before we get started, I always ask an icebreaker question. It may or may not have anything to do with your topic, but are you ready?
I am ready. Shoot.
All right. Describe what a perfect Valentine's date looks like for you.
Oh my God. The perfect Valentine's date for me would be to actually have one.
Same.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And it would be actually pretty romantic. Flowers, candy, um, a nice candlelight dinner, then go to like a live theater play. I love live productions, whether it's theater or a musical, something like that. And a nice kiss afterwards. And that would be wonderful. I would love something like that.
Awesome. I love it. It sounds great. So tell everybody about yourself.
Yeah. So I live in Detroit, Michigan. I've moved around quite a bit. And like I said, I am a very spiritual person, my own spiritual guru. I think I should have a degree because I learned it on my own. Um, and I I was a closeted young man, and that forced me to face some things because I was spiritual. It conflicted with that. So I went through ex-gay ministry, reparative therapy, because I did not want to be gay, and my environment that I was in, it was very hyper masculine. The worst thing you could do was to be gay.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of my years in those camps until I did everything I could, and I came out. And when I came out, bam, my creative writing juices were unblocked. I was able to write. I got into the field of education, which I'm in now. And then most recently, I'm into podcasting, and I might be moving into the coaching field as well.
So you're an educator. How
Mhm.
long have you been in the teaching forum?
I've been in the education field for well over 12 years. I worked in special needs as a parapro for quite a while. I've been teaching for 4 years.
Let's talk about how teaching and your sexuality kind of went hand in hand. Because a lot of people don't think about when you're working somewhere that your sexuality would even interfere with your job, right?
Oh,
But
yeah,
that did not
exactly.
happen for you. Do you want to talk about what happened to you and how that all came about?
Yeah, it's one thing, that straight people don't have to think about, that we have
Right.
to think about on a daily basis is, people say, well, be your authentic self. And I do want to be my authentic self as much as possible. But you have to think when your livelihood's going to be on the line, um, who's going to accept you and who isn't. And most people don't realize that in the guidelines for a lot of schools, they still have in there that they can fire you for being gay just for the fact that you are gay. They still have that in their guidelines. Most people don't know that.
No.
Um,
I thought there was laws that protect you against discrimination.
um, Most people think there is, and there's work being done on that, but not every state or school district follows that. And then you have charter schools, which is a whole different territory. So when I entered the school field and I first found a lesbian that I worked under, I asked her when I finally got the guts to kind of whisper like, hey, you know, I am on this kind of team too. What do you do? Like, are you out? All that stuff. She's like, oh, well, until you're a tenured teacher and you have that security, don't say anything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was my advice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what does that feel like for you? You have to now not be your authentic self, although that is the message that we are preaching these days.
It's very difficult because I make these connections with kids. Some are gay, some are transgender, and I I can't fully advise them. I can't fully be myself, and it was very hard for a
Mhm.
number of years, um, because I really am myself, like some teachers perform. I
Mhm.
remember one teacher would say before she got in the classroom, she was like, "Ready? On with the show. This is it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5," and she would go in and she would do a show. That's not me. I'm just
Right.
myself all the time. And
Mhm.
it's very challenging to, not be able to reveal that, and to hear parents and sometimes kids say the word, gay or fag, or, if you see on social media, if you happen to be connected to them in any way and see, any kind of derogatory comments like "I hate fags" or "homosexuals are taking over the country" or that kind of thing, then you kind of feel like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want
So
to
that
say
kind of puts
something.
a little stop, a little guard up for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. With your students. That's interesting. That's interesting. So talk about what happened when a school found out you were gay.
Yeah. Well, I was at a school, and this school, I have to tell you, I was all in. Um, the kids loved me. Sometimes I would work till 1 or 2 in the morning, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I gave this school my all. I was super close to the principal in a way that in the staff meetings, I kind of felt embarrassed because principal would always call me out in the meetings. We would joke. Um, and, you know, I was just one of the star staff because I just did a lot for the kids. The parents gave a lot of good feedback, all that kind of stuff, because I just do a lot. Um, and for one particular kid that was autistic, his him and his grandparent lived on the other side of the state, and they came for a field trip, and I had given them a tour of our city because they came so far. And the principal was really taken by that I went the extra mile, um, in another way, because I always did. So she had me put in the Charter Schools National Magazine using that example and had me interviewed. So I was put in the national magazine with pictures taken from that field trip with that autistic student as somebody who really brings a positive impact. I got really comfortable. The kids started picking up on my social media that I was gay. I didn't have anything inappropriate, but they kind of picked up. And I finally let the principal know that I was. And I said I was wondering if she was open to me running a support group for our LGBT kids, because we had a lot of LGBT and trans kids, and people everybody in the school seemed really supportive of them. Once I asked that, I never got an email response again from my principal. Anything I asked, I never heard anything again from her.
Oh my
And then over the summer, after school was over, I was heading out to vacation and I got a call from our human resources department that they were investigating me about the very student that they had put me in the magazine for. And they actually used the very article that they had published in their national magazine to say that I had an obsessive, inappropriate interest in that student. And they tried to use quotes from that magazine article against me. They called the cops in my city using those quotes to try and prove that I was having an inappropriate relationship with that student. It's
Essentially
so
framing
painful.
you. Yeah,
Yeah,
framing you for something that you weren't even doing.
right.
How is that legal?
I don't know. I
Oh,
and the parents, the grandmother, she did not let the student know because she knew it would crush him.
yeah.
And she wrote them. She was so livid, so livid. And she wrote them and told them about how ridiculous that was and what a great teacher I was and the mistake they were making. And no lawyer would take the case. And so they didn't have any proof. The police wouldn't take it either. They thought it was ridiculous.
Oh, good. Thank goodness.
I
You could have got
know.
caught up in something that you didn't even do. You could have went to jail.
Yeah. And what they ended up firing me for is they found some emails where I told the student that I thought he was a bright spot in my day because he wrote me constantly,
Right.
and feeling insecure about his assignment. So I'd reassure him, say like, you're a bright spot in my day and things like that. And they said that that was inappropriate for me to say.
But I've had teachers myself say, "You're a bright spot in my classroom," give you a
Hmm.
compliment, but now when it comes out that your sexual orientation is maybe not what they consider the norm, all
Yeah.
of a sudden they wanna twist it and use it against you. That is not okay.
Yeah. It was devastating.
I bet.
It
I
was
bet.
very devastating because this was the first school where, I mean, I've worked in a lot of schools, a lot.
Yeah.
And not that I didn't like any of them, but I was all in this school.
Yeah.
Um, I did a lot with them and for them.
So
So it was devastating.
when this happened to you, can you talk about kind of what that did to you in those months, in those weeks, in the beginning when all this is coming down on you? Can you kind of just take us into what it was kind of like for you?
It terrified me. It angered me because I was going on vacation, when they told me I was being investigated, and I hadn't been on vacation in 3 years, didn't have the money to go on vacation. This was my first vacation in 3 years. So I was going on vacation with this threat of an investigation, and when we were about to leave, that's when I got the call, the day before I was about to leave, why I was fired. And I was just devastated. I was numb. Um, I came back and I wrestled for a long time of with what did I do wrong? And I always go back to that. I always deal with that is what did I do wrong? What was it about me that they decided to try to persecute me for? But I knew, though, also that this was homophobia,
Yeah.
um, and it wasn't right. And I got with lawyers, and unfortunately, they didn't want to pick it up either. So I got very angry,
Yeah.
got very angry, and I had to focus on getting another job. So I delve into that a lot. I cried a lot, um, and nobody teaches you how to Nicole, we talked about this before, me and you privately, but nobody teaches you how to love yourself.
Right.
Nobody in school teaches you how to do that, and that's what I'm learning at the age of 53, is how to love yourself, and boy, did I have to put that into practice, and it was tough. It was a tough learning lesson to put that into practice. I got a really kick in the rear.
Did you have support from your family and friends during this time?
My family, yes, and you know who else really was the parent of that kid.
Oh, that's awesome.
She texted almost every day. Um, she was awesome about it, and
Yeah.
I don't think I would have got through it really that well if I didn't have her support.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. I mean, that's a harsh claim. I trained to do substitute teaching here in Georgia, and
Mhm.
the legalities and what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do with a student, even touching them on the shoulder can lead to an accusation. So I
Yeah,
just can't even imagine you decide to be yourself and confide in someone you think is your friend and is your coworker and is your boss, and they essentially try to ruin your life. I mean,
yeah,
I don't understand. So let's kind of talk about this misconception that we have, at least that I have. I don't know if it's everyone, that the LGBTQ plus community is protected by laws, but it sounds like not so much.
yeah. Um, So this was a charter school, not a public school. And if I had a union, I might have had more protection. So that's one thing with that.
Got you. Got you. So
So
there is more protection in the public school forum.
yeah, there is.
Got you.
Um, but it also depends on what the bylaws are in the schools. So there are school bylaws still, even in public schools. It just depends on the district where you can be fired for being gay. Um, and it just depends on the district.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
as a heterosexual person, this is not something that I even have to think about, right?
Yeah.
So, why are we so hyper focused, do you feel? We are so hyper focused on people who choose a different sexual path.
Yeah. You know, I think honestly, um, I think we don't like what we don't know. we want to know everything, and so we get afraid. There's that, and I think deep in our core, we're all on a sexual spectrum, and it scares us that it brings to mind our own insecurity about our own sexuality, those
Mhm.
two things.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of like a thing to eliminate it. You know what's funny about it is when I look at my own sexuality, because I get conflicted sometimes, is that I was very fundamentalist in my religion, and I always say that if I didn't have this, I I would be I wouldn't be anti-gay in the sense of like discrimination, but I wouldn't be as enlightened as I am about gay people. Um,
Mhm.
I'm just fortunate to be gay and to have this enlightenment. It's
Yeah.
hard when you're not in somebody else's shoes.
Yeah.
And I think that I think also that the gay community can do better on educating people and not taking so much of just an angry stance also.
Yeah.
Not being there's a lot of wounds, and people still beating up on each other even within the community. So
Yeah.
there can be more education too, and a gentleness, a grace to people, um, I think can happen as well for people that
Stop.
don't understand. Yeah.
Yeah. Stopping the hate. I mean,
Yeah.
why are we hating on people for being themselves? I That
Yeah.
is not something that I participate in. I am totally about being your authentic self for real. You are who you
Yeah.
are. Be
Yeah.
who you are. And we talk about that. We give that message out to our kids, but then there's the subculture where it's really just a message and it's really just words. How can we, as a united nation, a united world, how can we show up differently to support people?
Right. Right. Yeah. We can, honestly, it's love. People have to get back to, like I said, we're not taught how to love ourselves, and you can't give from a place that you don't have inside yourself. And
I
people say, well, just love yourself, just have confidence, don't be afraid, don't hate. Well, those are
Easier
easy
said than
things.
done.
And you're right. you
Mhm,
know
mhm.
so it's a journey. But I wanted to tell you too, that second story I was telling you earlier,
Yeah,
before this one happened a long time ago in a big, I'll just say in a big red box store that I used to work at. I had a great team environment in there. Um, so I want to give you the picture that our team leads and our boss at the time of this big store, um, they looked out for us, and they pumped us up. They encouraged us. They gave us pizza, for lunch. Every month they celebrated our birthdays by giving us these Costco cakes. So everybody's birthday was celebrated with a big Costco cake. Now we didn't make worth poo poo. Okay, it was like it was the worst pay. But you know
right.
what?
But you were
I
treated well.
almost didn't care. I loved who I was working with,
Yeah,
and yeah, I wanted better pay, but I loved being around these people. Then leadership switched around as they do in these stores, and the boss left and another boss came in, and so did that dynamic
yeah,
changed. And there was a security guy that started harassing me, and I've never had been harassed. You watch the videos and you think you got it, but he kept um, harassing me about being gay. Now, I had never said anything,
right.
but he would like use these very sexual terms about being gay, and it kept upsetting me because I was attracted to him at the same time. And finally, it got so bad that I finally told him, I said, "You have to stop this because you know what? I'm gay. And if you don't stop this, um, I'm going to have to report this to somebody. And I really don't want to have to do that to you." And he's like, "Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, I didn't know that." He apologized profusely and everything like that. He was one step under the main guy the main boss. I ended up getting fired after that. They just found a reason to fire me after that. In the big box red store at the time before they were promoted by um, Ellen. So then they changed. But I had heard and I had seen it before that they were not friendly towards gay people. I saw people that were gay come in and come out,
Wow.
and I had trusted that person.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh no, I won't tell anybody. I got, and I'm so sorry. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry I did this, you know." And I thought after, I thought about that video. I thought about that sexual harassment video and the steps I should have taken,
Right.
but I I'd never been through it before, and I
Right.
just trusted him.
That brings up a really good point. You're gay. You're not allowed to really say much because your job is in jeopardy. So you're being sexually harassed. How are you supposed to use your voice?
I know.
That is not that is not okay. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Wow. As a woman, I experience sexual harassment quite often. And you feel like you're voiceless, but you truly are voiceless because you can't
Yeah.
even say, "This is my orientation and this is how this makes me feel."
Right.
Wow. We need to get better. We need to get better about this. So, you have lost 2 jobs because of your sexuality. How
Yeah.
did it moving forward, how did that change your outlook as you were looking for another job?
Oh. Well, as you know, I'm going on this podcast by the name HomoSanity. So I cloak things that I do. All my social media is cloaked. I will not come out on my jobs anymore. I'm very careful on what I do on my jobs. So unfortunately,
You have
um,
to lead a double life.
I do have to leave a double life. I do.
Wow. Do you think that we will ever make change in our mindsets moving forward? Do you think we'll ever become a society of acceptance?
I think the potential is there because we have a youth culture that is more accepting. The problem is, um, and I don't want to get political here, I won't get too political, but we have a dark shadow over this country right now that's trying to pull things backwards. It doesn't like the forward progression that we were making. That's the only caveat that I can see that's
Yeah,
pulling
so it
things
falls
back.
on whoever's in the administration.
Yeah.
They set the tone, and it's kinda like in a leadership position. It's the higher up, and it leaks down onto us.
Yes. And
There's
even locally,
Yeah,
because, federally things can get done, but it's still just, locally, it matters. Charter schools or whatever can do things their own way. So it just matters what you do. We have three superpowers that I talked about in my podcast, which is on Podbean, Spotify, and Swell, which is where me and Nicole met on Swell. I'm on HomoSanity. There is that we have our voice. We have our voice, freedom of speech, um, where we put our money, and our votes. That's our superpowers as Americans. We got to use it.
yeah. Okay, so you and I are about the same age. So you
Yeah.
remember the '90s, the '80s. We were
Yeah.
very vocal back then, talking to
Yes.
government through our music, through our creativity. We don't see that much anymore.
Mm-mm. And I'll
You
tell you why. I'll tell you
tell me
why.
why, because I'm confused as to why.
Well, I saw this in a documentary once, and a lot of people don't listen to this, but um, the enemies of our country saw that they can't really do anything to us, but one thing they could do is get us to distrust our government and distrust the process. So people are deciding, well, not going to vote because I don't trust the government. Um, and now the other real bad thing is, with the fake news or whatever thing, well, like, I believe this or I believe that, what's true, what's not, can't, you know, that kind of thing. So it's just bring confusion, don't trust anything, just totally disengage, right? Hear people like, oh, I'm just going to go off the grid and totally disengage. That's what's doing it.
Yeah.
We got to stay engaged,
Yeah.
this is very small, but how what I did with Kroger and getting involved in Kroger, and I saw my local, I wrote Kroger, and because I was upset about the prices and their price gouging,
Mhm.
and I got engaged with them, and they engaged me back, and the prices at my local Kroger have went down.
And
You,
that's proof. I talk about this so much about using your voice and writing companies and
yeah,
asking for things. People don't believe that you can do that, but I remember in the '80s and the '90s, people
hmm
would write the company if they were upset, and it would make change. It would make change. I think we've
yes,
gone way too far away from trying to make positive change. We're too busy
yes,
going at each other's throats over
hmm
nonsense half the time, and we're not seeing the bigger picture.
yeah. You do have to remember whether people, I mean, people try and minimize it. They're going to try and minimize it, but these people still need your votes. They still need your money, and your voice still matters. It does. So don't fall for that. Still
Yeah,
let them know. Still let them hear your voice.
yeah.
Still let them know, hey, if you don't do such and such, if you keep doing this, I'm not going to vote for you or whatnot. Still
Yeah,
do those things. It matters. It
yeah.
does.
Yeah. I don't know when we kind of fell off the track of believing that our voice matters, and they're keeping us divided. I don't wanna get political
Yes.
either, but they're
Right.
keeping us divided. United, we
Yes.
stand. Divided, we
Right.
fall.
Exactly. Exactly. That is so true.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and
I don't
even within the gay community, my struggle within our community is that we're even divided,
Yes.
between gays, bis, transgenders. There's divisions there, and that blows my mind.
Where does that come from?
I don't know. The only thing I can figure is that we're human, and
Eh,
we
we're
still are gonna
classifying each other. Yes.
we're
Oh
still
my god.
classifying each other. So
Yes.
so a lot of gay people will say, like, about bi people, "Oh, bis, oh, there's no such thing as bis. You're really gay. Don't tell me about being bi. You're really gay." Right? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh my god, you're so right. I think about that quite a lot. It's like at the end of the day, when can we just realize that we're all human,
Yeah. Yeah.
period. And we all
Exactly.
feel and we all, deserve to have a good experience living in our authentic skin
Yes.
and
Exactly.
to do whatever it is that makes us happy.
Yes. Yeah.
Man. So, what is life like for you now? You you have to kind of separate your life. Do you feel in your community because you are a teacher and you are kind of out there, do you feel comfortable moving fluidly through your community? Or do you feel you have to go somewhere else to have a romantic life?
Hmm. That's a good question. I am single, so that hasn't popped up yet. But like I said, I buckled down, I locked down my social media. I'm out to my family, so I'm good with that end. But I'm fortunate that I work in a virtual school right now. So I lock down my social media and that's pretty good for me. But
Mm.
that's a good question. I don't know if I had a partner what I would do because there are kids locally, even though it's virtual, they do live in the Detroit area. If they saw me, I would have to think about that.
Yeah,
Um, it is true. Um, it's just like I'm a spiritual guy. I don't really have a church home. There's not too many churches that I can go to. Um, I do have one. It's pretty small actually, but it's a nice one. I'm just kind of it's it's not the kind that I like to be at as far as my style and what I want
yeah,
to be doing. The ones where I want to be at don't accept me.
damn. And
So,
that's another thing. I mean, we could really dive all the way in because some religions sects say that homosexuality is the pathway to hell and all this.
yeah,
I personally do not believe that.
yeah,
I don't believe we would be
right.
made to be damned.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have those religious beliefs and believers that think that that is. And so there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of
There
work to be done
is.
to make people
There
comfortable.
really is. And I'm going to tell you, your listeners, some of them might be repelled right now in hearing that, like, hey, I believe that, you know, that homosexuals are sinners, or at least there's something wrong with it or unusual about it. I'm just going to tell you, listeners, that I was somebody that did not want to be gay. Understand that. And I did everything that I could have done for 12 or 15 years to change it, to to do everything. And I had to accept who I was because it was in my DNA.
Yeah.
And I just had to learn to accept it. And there are a lot of people have. You have to understand that a lot of deeply spiritual, religious people have killed themselves for because they knew that they wouldn't be accepted by their people of faith. Think about that. How
Yeah.
terrible that is.
It is terrible. It is terrible. I have people who are gay in my family, and I sit and think they're some of the best humans in the world. I could not
Yeah.
imagine believing that they would be damned to hell because
Yeah.
of their sexuality. That's a
Right.
choice. Well, it's actually not a choice.
Yeah.
It's not a choice. They're born that way, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna not love my family members because that's who they are, and I
Well,
think
and if we're human, and there's one part of the scripture that says if you're not going to give a snake to your child, what do you think I'm going to do? So if you have a child and you wouldn't put your child in a fire to hell, what do you think God's going to do? You wouldn't put your child into hell. Well, he's not going to do it either.
right.
And I know
Right.
I wouldn't. You
Yeah.
know, even when I was back and didn't want to be gay, if I had a kid that was gay, I still wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
If you have any kind of moral bone in your body, you wouldn't do that.
Yeah. 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 I hope that we can make some change moving forward, but as I get older, I get more frustrated because I'm like, it's 2024, people. This is
I
not
know.
the archaic days. What was forced upon us in the past has actually created more trauma that it has
Yes.
created good. Look at the suicide rates in a lot of different communities because of the way they're born,
Yes.
and it's not okay. We need to stop. We need to stop and really change our mindsets.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? And
Yeah,
just when we were going forward and now we have this propulsion backward, it's just like, I just don't understand, like you said, why it has to take so long and that people don't get it.
yeah,
I don't know. And I go
yeah,
to, I go to the gym a lot and I hear this stupid stuff in the locker room too. And I'm like, wow, the stupidity, the
yeah.
sheer stupidity.
Yeah.
Mm.
And a lot of it is fear, a lot of it is uneducation, a lot of
Mhm.
it is a lot of different things, but what people don't realize is that you may hate today, and then you're gonna have a child or a grandchild in your family that has to live in that lifestyle because that is who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then, how are you gonna change your mind, or are you gonna shun your own family?
Mhm.
Can't do that. We can't keep living in that cycle because we're not making this world any better by doing that.
Exactly.
Not at all. Mm.
Exactly.
So tell everybody where they can find all of the things that you are putting out there, all your podcasts, your books,
Absolutely.
all of that.
Absolutely. So, you can find me on my main home for my podcasting is Spotify.
Mhm.
Um, you can find me there. You can find me on Podbean. Me and Nicole, we found each other on Swell. Swell is a wonderful place to even just do a 5-minute vent, isn't it, Nicole?
It is.
It's it's such a great community. It's just very chill. Check out Swell. It's really great. So I'm there. My books are on Kindle Vella, and you can read those right off the web. I have two stories out that are about my life, one when I'm younger, one when I'm older, about dealing with coming out and spirituality and sexuality, and some sci-fi books. I'm on Instagram under HomoSanity. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Awesome. What does the future hold for you?
Right now, more books, more podcasting, and I'm actually finishing up some training to be a coach, um, focusing on anxiety. I used to be agoraphobic, almost completely locked in my house. And so I think I'd be really good at helping people overcome anxiety. So I'm
Yeah.
looking at doing that also.
We may have to do a different episode about agoraphobia
Yeah.
because I know people. My own mother is this close from being I don't know how to say that word, but
Agoraphobic. Yeah.
yes, when she had to work, she was in a 10-mile radius. She would not deviate from that 10-mile radius. Now that she's retired, she doesn't really go anywhere. She would much rather be inside. And I don't think people realize that once you shut yourself in, that anxiety and that fear, it gets worse and worse and worse, and then suddenly you
Yes.
don't even wanna leave. So
Yeah.
we might have to do another episode. Do you have
Yeah.
any
Absolutely.
final thoughts about what we're talking about now?
Well, yeah, I do. Learn to love yourself. Don't don't get frustrated by people saying love yourself. Learn to love yourself. Learn what that is. It's a journey. It's a journey, and follow Nicole. Nicole has some wonderful things to say, um, and her leadership style is just amazing. And I'm so glad to have met you. You've
Well, I'm
become
glad to have met you. I
a
mean, right, I can echo everything you're saying right back at you.
aw, she's a great leader, leadership style, and just all around great person. So you're going to learn a lot from her.
I appreciate you. And I appreciate you having this conversation with me because it takes a lot to come out and say, I was fired from
Yeah.
a job. I was accused of doing something that I didn't do, and how your life could have been so much different if law enforcement would have reacted differently.
Yeah.
We need
It was
to
scary.
really, yeah, we need to be thinking about that. And if we're going to preach acceptance in the media, we really need to start walking that walk in all of our states and all of our institutions,
Yes. Absolutely.
because it isn't right. It isn't right. But I appreciate you being honest and open and sharing your story with my listeners.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Okay.
Truly be the change. Thank you for spending time listening to our conversation. If you enjoyed this and other episodes, please subscribe, like, and share so we can reach more listeners with our powerful messages. And stay tuned to hear about our affiliates and recommendations. They change from episode to episode.